minutes after 6. Good morning and welcome to Kusile Breakfast Show. Thank you for joining us. We are on the 19th day of January 2024. It's a beautiful Friday morning. I'm with my co-host Mnguni Shumnagbili. Mnguni, how are you this morning? I'm well.
I'm doing really well, except it's just a bit of advice for Lota Pumaindli, Nomflexen would see Natsangal Patsal Jezi at the Bonalang Pandle, Matima Makatambamba, which is justifiable. It's justifiable Nasbuga, Letimvulales, Buagoto, Tsandi, Bongosi, Nalomshagaba, Nanzi, Shelweni, Jangobaga Gungles Sanjang and Joelo, Stabana Fabrisim Sonera. It's been an interesting week for football, even Tselela Nanjana weekend, Sugaguyo, Kungena Kulel Vigi, what the Africa Cup of Nations has done to a lot of teams like in their respective leagues in terms of taking their players into the African Cup of Nations. We want to make that a topic of conversation with Fabrice Msonera and also look at these very interesting Africa Cup of Nations. Very interesting results. If we look at how Nigeria edged out on Ivory Coast with that 1-0 victory, as well as Egypt and Ghana, 2-2. Very, very interesting games. We also do want to look at the upcoming fixtures for the weekend in all respective leagues. But a very, very interesting topic of conversation, Lapa Ekaya Manzini Wanderers beating Green Mamba. Everyone's still excited about that game and what it means for Manzini Wanderers, a glimmer of hope for Manzini Wanderers. But what does it mean for Green Mamba as they really want to put out a notice and prove a point that certainly they are really that team to be reckoned with as the best team in Eswatini. All of that will be discussed with Fabrice Msonera at 7:30 wines out.
Ngisizophinza sibe nabo labasuka Eswatini Revenue Service. It's a Friday. This week's topic is a VAT registration. The VAT Act requires that any business which supplies goods or services which are not exempt from VAT in Eswatini should apply for a VAT registration. And it is compulsory for businesses whose annual taxable turnover exceeds 500,000 emalangeni. It was introduced on 1st April 2012 to replace a sales tax. The IRS on the payment of a VAT, which we shall hear from Ntobeko Dlamini, who is the Communications and Marketing Manager Konaga IRS Lomtlek at 6:30, and also will be joined by the Data Protection Manager Isicom, as the Eswatini Data Protection Agency will be commemorating the first ever National Data Protection Week from the 22nd to the 28th of January. Lomtlake Batabe Bane commemoration event where there will be a panel discussion about the data protection principles and the data protection. The actual International Day is on the 28th of January. The Act came into effect in April 2023. The main objective of the Awareness Week is to sensitize stakeholders on data protection and strengthening the data protection posture of the country. After Baga ERS. So do stay with us. All right, asiqale e-times of Eswatini late ihamba imbili namhlanje. Kanzigule leti ihamba imbili. Housing Minister tours Municipal Council of Manzini. Kanzigeloku kwendeke itolo. Minister of Housing and Urban Development Apollo Mapalala. He was touring Maspala Waga Manzini alongside the CEO Wakona Gamaspala Lungile Dlamini. Kuletinye leti ihamba imbili. Online robot teacher for schools. School's Online Foundation says Nomfundo is trained on the Eswatini syllabus. Artificial teacher to deliver educational content in 3 schools from next week. It's not here to replace teachers. A Parents Association give it a chance. So yeah, we cannot wait for Nomfundo. Quite interesting. Government protects taxpayer from overcharging suppliers. More on page 4. 2 schools, parents given different bank account. And 7-seater owners are now safe to travel to South Africa.
Kutemidlalo, Times of Eswatini this Friday morning. More interest in Green Mamba marksmen. Warriors join Sikali Chase. Two of Zambia's top sides battle for Yenage Premier League sharpshooter Lugongo Sikali. It's going to be an interesting one there, seeing how that one pans out. On another one, Kudus, a rare breed, rather, Botswana Galaxy. Joining Galaxy Pro Tankiso Morake says Green Mamba box-to-box midfielder Mkolisi Kudus Mkondo has unique talent that the team was fortunate to have. On another one, Super Eagles Claw Elephants. That is the score between Ivory Coast and Nigeria. And fixtures results.
Moving on to the Eswatini Daily News, the Deputy Prime Minister extends support to the families of slayed police officer. Deputy Prime Minister Kusile, accompanied by Acting National Commissioner of the Royal Eswatini Police Service, Lydia Dlamini. Brothers arrested for copper theft worth over 75,000 emalangeni, as the Prime Minister jets off to represent King at key international summit. More on page 3.
The leading headlines, Kutemidlalo Eswatini Daily News, 3 months suspension for blundering referees after endless complaints by teams to the Premier League of Eswatini on poor officiating. The Eswatini National Referees Association resolved to effect new disciplinary procedures that could lead to a 3-month suspension for a blundering match official. Quite an interesting take there. Nigeria stunned Ivory Coast on another one. Wanderers mourn late Reverend Makongo's demise. Those are the leading headlines. Lomhlek Senema Panzabeni Elive Aspasalet Magete Stabuya Si Chabelet Nizabate Swati.
Umsakazo wetithombe iEswatini TV utibophelele kuhlonipha nekulandzela umgomo wetekusakata loweluswe libandla letekuchumana eVeni.
Ngephansi kwalomgomo sitimisele kusakata tindzaba letenteka ngaleso sikhatsi, tindzaba letide emagama laqosheme, letitsembekile, letitsintsa tonke tinhlangothi naletisebaleni.
Kusukela kutepolitiki, tetemphilo, tekulima, tetinkantolo netemhlaba wonke jikelele, siniletsela tindzaba njengoba tinjalo ngaleso sikhatsi letenteka ngaso.
Kanzi kulomsakato siphindze sikulethele lonke luhlobo lwetemidlalo kusuka emidlalweni welibhola letinyawo kuye emidlalweni ledlalelwa ematafuleni kanye naleto letiqhamuka ngaphandle kwakuleli.
Leti tindzaba loutiletselwa ngumsakazo wetithombe iEswatini TV.
Mizuzile mfica kubumbene insimbi yesithupha siphinde sikwamukele lihlelweni sethabele nathi tindzabade siswati. Umhlonishwa Mvunankhulu Russell Dlamini ulishile leSwatini walibhekisa eveni le-Uganda lapho khona yomelela ingwenyama emhlanganweni wemave langadingeni tindzaba lamanye emave, the 19th Non-Aligned Movement Summit. Kanti-ke umhlonishwa Mvunankhulu utsite utawubese uchubekela eveni le-Italy lapho ayawungenela khona umhlangano walela live nemave asevekatini le-Afrika. Mvunankhulu usukele esikhumulweni setindiza eKing Mswati the 3rd International Airport ngalesine ekuseni. Kanti-ke Mvunankhulu Russell Dlamini ubese uyefika edolobheni leKampala eveni le-Uganda lapho kubhekeke khona ukuthi amelele ingwenyama emhlanganweni welishumi wenhlangano lengadingeni tindzaba talamanye emave, i-Non-Aligned Movement kanye nemhlangano i-G7 China Summit kunembiko.
Umhlonishwa Mvunankhulu Russell Dlamini ufikile esikhumulweni setindiza i-Entebbe International Airport ngetithuba tensimbi yesikhombisa kusihlwa itolo. Kanzi wemukelwe indvuna yitemadolobha yalapha e-Uganda umhlonishwa Minsa Khabanda. Mvunankhulu lapha eveni le-Uganda kutawumelela silo semhlaba ingwenyama inkosi Mswati wesithathu emhlanganweni webaholi bemave nabohulumende bangephansi kwenhlangano lengadingeni nani tindzaba talamanye emave emhlaba, i-Non-Aligned Movement. Le nhlangano inemalunga l123 lapha ekhasi lange-53 lavela ke emaveni ase-Afrika, emaveni ange-34 avela ke Asia, 2 ase-Europe kanti lange-26 avela ke e-Latin America nase-Caribbean. Inhloso lenkulu yokusungulwa kwale nhlangano ngeminyaka wa-1955 kwakukwenta isiqiniseko sekuthi emave lesatfole inkululeko ayachubeka yatibusa futhi ke akadimbazakanyi empini lebeyikhona emkhatsini kwelive leMelika neSoviet Union, nekuthi emave labesakhululekile akhululeke nakutemnotho lobukadze kwenganyelwe ngulawo mave bekawabusa. Umhlangano walenhlangano ubanjwa njalo ngemva kweminyaka lemithathu kanti ke live le-Uganda kubheke ukuthi libe ngusihlalo wayo kude kube ngumnyaka wa-2027. Lona ke kubheke ukuthi kube ngumhlangano we-14 wayo inhlangano yeNAM. Umengameli welive le-Uganda Yoweri Museveni utawuthatha tinzambo kumengameli welive le-Azerbaijan longusihlalo kwamanje. Umgomo wetangephandle welive le-Eswatini uthi live le-Eswatini alisiso sitha semuntu kepha ke lingumngane wawonke futhi ke liyakuhlonipha ukutimela kwemave. Ndunankulu utawuphinze amele lesilo semhlaba emhlanganweni lekuthiwa i-G7 China Summit khona lapha eveni le-Uganda. Umbiko uhlanganiswe ngiLinkedIn Gule ngiseKampala eveni le-Uganda.
Indvuna yelitiko letemafa umhlonishwa Neil Reichenberg uthi kudula ngalokweqile kwempahla lethengwa ngemali yemaphakelo ahulumende akugcini njengekucedza imali kodwa kuphinze kumise kabi live kude kusimama kwemnotho. Indvuna ikusho lokhu nayetfula ngalokusemthethweni luhlwa lwempahla lolithengwa nguhulumende netinkampani letingaphansi kwakhe emhlanganweni netinhlangothi letitsindzekako kude kutsengiswa kwempahla. Umhlangano bewubanjelwe ehhotela Sibanesami eZulwini.
Inkampani yahulumende leyengamele kuthengwa kwempahla yeSwatini Public Procurement Regulatory Agency yasukumisa licwaningo ukuhlola kwekuthi impahla lethengwa ngemali yahulumende mbambambamba ibite kangakanani etimakethe. Indvuna yelitiko letemafa umhlonishwa Neil Reichenberg uthi lempahla ithatha imali lengefika ku-22.6% wemaphakelo elive.
As the government, we have an obligation to maximize every cent in our budget. Thus, better management of public procurement sector with increased transparency, efficiency, and value for money is critical for achieving economic growth and boosting shared prosperity for all. It's imperative that we address the existing issue of overpricing, be it for common use items or any sector of our government services, which does not only deplete government funds, but further hampers economic growth and sustainability.
Umphathi wenkampani yahulumende leyengamele kuthengwa kwempahla yeSwatini Public Procurement Regulatory Agency, Vusumuthi Wendvodza Mathebula, ucela tinkampani kwekuthi tibabambise njalo uma bafuna imininingwane etinkampanini tabo ngoba bagunyatwa ngumthetho.
Sekukhanza ukuthi bantu sebathathu labaceliwe ukuthi abafake ima quotation sesiyadibuta ke lokuthi live lingaka ubakhethe njani abalabathathu kuyendeka lesinye isikhathi kube nesingle source kuvele nje kusukelwe nje Mathebula kuthiwe Mathebula letha igulumba tibe nge100 ngile information leyo ke lesiyayifuna kuyibona sitokubuta lokuthi kubangelwe yini ukuthi kuloku nanithenga lokhu niveni kumuntu omunye.
Lolu cwaningo lobelwentiwa inkampani yahulumende lecwaningako i-Eswatini luhlolwe intengo leyahlukahlukene yetimpahla letahlukahlukene lengafika ku-17,000 etindzabeni te-Eswatini TV kubika Mbongwa Dube eZulwini.
Indvuna yelitiko letetindlu nekutfutfukiswa kwemadolobha umhlonishwa Pholo Maphalala uthi kumcoka ukuthi emadolobha athelelane ngelwati nangelisito lolungazuza labo labahlala emadolobheni kanye nemimango leyakhelene nemadolobha. Indvuna ikusho lokhu emhlanganweni netinhlangothi letahlukene uma iyobona imisebenzi yentfutfuko leyentiwa lidolobha lakaManzini.
Ekufikeni kwayo indvuna yetetindlu nekuthuthukiswa kwemadolobha umhlonishwa Pholo Maphalala lapha emahovisini kamasipala kaManzini wamukelwe ngumeya welidolobha noZipho Gamedze lobonge kakhulu endvuneni ukuthi ifike itobona imisebenzi labayentako balidolobha. Gamedze uthembise indvuna ukuthi bangumasipala batawuchubeka nekwelekelela uhulumende ekuletheni lusito loludzingekile esiveni. Umphathi welidolobha lakaManzini Lungile Dlamini ubikele indvuna kwekuthi leli dolobha selende imisebenzi lelinganiselwa emalini lengaba ngu300 million kule minyaka lesihlanu kanti lemisebenzi ifaka ekhathi imigwaqo lengaba ngu65% waleli dolobha leseyendiwe litiyela kwakhiwa kwesakhiwo sekusita abantu labakhubatekile labanesimo se-autism lesatiwa nge-Autism Respite Center kanye nekulungiswa kwemakethe lenkulu kaManzini. Lo mphathi ukhale kakhulu endvuneni ngekuthi uhulumende akasayikhiphi imali la iphakela emadolobha kuthi akhona ukuchubeka kahle nemisebenzi yawo.
The municipality is at consultation stage with the Ministry of Public Works and Transport for the construction and upgrading of the MR3 highway joining Manzini interchange to Nazarene Cross Junction. The project is reported to be at preparation stage. The municipality is working on engaging the Ministry of Housing for support in consultation with the Public Works to integrate the project with the city infrastructure services and community.
Seyethula inkulumo yayo indvuna itetindlu lekuthuthukiswa kwemadolobha umhlonishwa Apollo Maphalala uthe kumcoka kakhulu kwekuthi emadolobha asebenze ngekubambisana kanye nemimango leyakhelane nawo ngoba lusito ludzingeke kuyo yonke indzawo.
Ngoba iconstitution yethu isho njalo. Ithi within 5 years kufanele sibe sesine single countrywide local government. And lenema synergies lathi kude rural na urban dichotomy noma lokuvuleka kwemkhathi emkhathini wemadolobha netindzawo letisemakhaya. Because the competence ye physical planning ika housing and urban development. But we seem to concentrate it to declared urban areas. Kanti le mandate yethu inational. Siyakucoca ke nalabo labafanele etikweni lokuthi asesi extend the service, but without, like I was saying, without changing or disturbing indlela boba benemabandla onke la khona lebasebenta ngawo, but sithenge isi service to them. Lokuthi indzawo tingahlele embiseka kahle kanje. Tihlele embiseka. Badaba kodwa badabe sekuhlele embisekile lokudaba kwabo.
Emlendeni wesibili welivakashelwayo indvuna lapha kaManzini ibe seyihlola tindzawo lapho khona masipala enda imisebenzi yayo kanti ifikile nasendzaweni yekulahla tibi lapho khona masipala athi seyigcwele kanti kunendzawo labayibukile emafutheni ukuthi bangayisebenzisa kube ngilapho kulahlwa khona tibi delidolobha. Indvuna iphindze yavakashela nemadzela lekubhekeke ukuthi avulwe masinyane kude ukuthi inyama lethengiswa etilaheni takaManzini nakuletinye tindzawo tase-Eswatini ibe ngileyo lehlobile. Indvuna ibhekeke ukuthi ichubeke nekuvakashela lamanye amadolobha kwathi kabanzi ngemisebenzi leyentekako kulamadolobha. Etindzabeni te-Eswatini TV kubika Mbonga Dube naPhumlani Masuku kaManzini.
Mabhalane lomkhulu yetiko letemcebo waphansi nemandla Docas Dlamini uthi imifula ibhekene netinsaya letahlukene letfaka ekhathi kungcoliswa bantfu nekuguquka kwesimo selitulu. Dlamini uthi kungako bahlangene naletinye tinhlangothi letisebenta ngemanti kubukisana ukuthi angasebenziswa njani kangcono emanti ikakhulu lawo lasemifuleni lethelelana nalamanye emave. Umhlangano obanjelwe eMafini ngalesine.
Live leSwatini lidlelana emanti nelive leNingizimu Afrika kanye neleMozambique. Lamave lamatsatfu sekanemihlangano leyahlukene yekuthola likhambi lekuthi kungentiwa njani lokuthi lamanti ongeke.
Namhla ke sihlangane ngetindzaba tasemantini la khona inkomati Maputo Water Commission athole ifunding kakhona leka Jeff ngekusitwa bona ba focal persons ethu sihlangene ke namhla kule workshop stokhulumisana ukuthi siphuma njani nelikhambi ukuthi nathi silive sikhone ukuthuthuka sikhone ukuphuma neproject letawusita thina singemaswati iproject la khona ifake emavela amathathu iSouth Africa, Mozambique neEswatini.
Betemvelo bayakwesekela lokho.
Actually, we are sitting on a portfolio which is just above 3 billion. It's a portfolio we need to work on actively between last year up to year 4, which is 2027. 3 billion we can mobilize. That's our minimum.
Inhlangano yakamhlaba yetentuthuko ithi emanti akasebenziswe kahle.
Just to stress the importance of sustainable water resource management and the protection of vital ecosystems, linking these to the overall enhanced environmental security and livelihood. These river basins are not only a source of water, but they're also a source of livelihood for agricultural and other source of livelihoods. And so it's doubly important to ensure, because water is life. Without water, how do we live? How do we grow the foods and livestock that we need?
Leswatini lisafuna kufaka ticelo nasetikhwameni letinye temhlaba kuze likhone kudlala inzima ekusebenziseni emanti kahle. Ndzabeni Eswatini TV kubika Themkosi Mavimbela, mina Themba Shabangu eMafini.
Isekela lamabhalane lomkhulu etiko letemfundvo Naniki Mnisi uthi kutawutsi kushayana titimbili enyangeni letako lelitiko ngekusebenzisana na micro projects litawube selicedzile kulungisa tikolo letingemashumi letalinyatwa. Mnisi uthi lelitiko kwenta lo msebenzi tosebenzisa imali lelinganiselwa ku 47 million emalangeni.
We're working very hard using micro projects to attend to those schools that were affected, which amongst others may include San Filomena Primary, Uhlagotla, and also Mhupe High School. And as we speak, the contract is on site in all regions, as we also have 2 new schools in Manzini region that were affected, in Matapa in particular. We also have Kwalini Primary School here in Horo region. Also in the Shiselani region, we have 1 school. But we're attending with other stakeholders in government to ensure that the smooth opening of schools and every Swazi pupil or child access education as expected. So we are getting help from the Minister of Finance and other stakeholders, and we appreciate this kind of assistance, because this is an anomaly, something that came all of a sudden. It was unexpected on government's part, but government always put aside funds for such eventualities which were just not in our plans. As a ministry, we are delivering books as we have started, and the media can attest to that, as we have seen in the newspapers, and we're also starting to deliver food in all the schools.
Tinhlangano temabandla tenkholo lokufaka ekhatsi i-League of African Churches, i-Council of Eswatini Churches kanye ne-Eswatini Conference of Churches tichaze umfundisi Bhekindlela Magongo longasekho emhlabeni njengemuntfu lowaba neligalelo lelibonakalako ekubumbaneni kwaletinhlangano temabandla tenkholo. Reverend Magongo ube ngusihlalo wenhlangano ye-Council of Eswatini Churches iminyaka lesihlanu.
Reverend Bhekindlela Magongo ushone ngalesibili engotini yemoto kaMahala. Lakufunga tindvuna tembuso tePhalamende lekhona nguMagongo lowavula ngemthandazo. Baholi betinhlangano temabandla bachaza ngaloko labatamkhumbula ngako umufi.
Besengakakhohlwa kuhamba kwababe Stephen Masilela. Naye wahamba kanje ku-COVID. Emadoda besigijima nawo la COVID kulukhuni. Wahamba mthatha uNkulunkulu. Lamhla Magongo hamba ngengoti lebhlungu kakhulu. Le ndoda sigcina sikhuluma nayo sokuyawuphela umnyaka. Silungisele etinye indlovu nasiphinde sihlangane nato. Lamhla sekusele baleni. Magongo ke lamandla indoda beyisebenta kakhulu. Labe ngifike ngumdumise khona. Thine labanye bekuthi kulomnye umhlangano sithumele singaphumeleli. Njengami njengempilo kuhloba ngempilo. Mthumele kodwa Magongo azange sakathumele yonke imhlangano Magongo ukhona.
Simkhumbula kulokunengi kakhulukazi ngase ngikhumangele COVID nje ukuthi bekakhona kubambisana uhulumende, akhona ukuthi akukhulume ngenzaba ukuthi noma kune COVID akuthandazwe. Bebabambisene kakhulu labasemagoyeni kuhulumende nekuthi bengumuntu bengathumeka bekase ashesha atende futhi atende ngendlela bokhombuza ukuthi imisele. Sitamkhumbula nje silahlekelo usihlanganisile kulokunengi. Sinalamanye balingani bethu baka conference baka league bekakhona lokuthi mhlawumbe sicishe sonke sihlangane sikhulume nabo nanasi sikhona usilimnye emsebenzini kanye kanye.
Singo Conference of Churches indodza lena lesisebenze nayo kahle kamnanzi kakhulu ekuhlanganiseni usebenta kwa Conference of Churches na Council of Churches na League of Churches. Umfundisi Bekindlela ube ngilomunye loba neligalelo lelikhulu.
Lokhulumela libandla lemasheshe kuleli Canon Dr. Sicelo Dlamini uthi kubheke ukuthi ngemgcibelo kube inkonzo yesikhumbuzo emufi bese ngelisonto uyobeka endlini yakhe yegcina ngemuva kwemlinzelo etindzabeni kubika Fortune Dlangamandla ngisembabane.
Kasenyalo sitabukana ngombiko lochamuka ehhovisini leliphini landvuna ngikhulu lelithili yadzabuka ngemibiko yekubulawa kwebantfwana labatsatfu lekuthiwa badliswe lokubuthi ngumake wabo. Ehhovisi lithi sive sinemsebenzi wekuvikela abantfwana nekucinisekisa ukuthi live liphephile ukuthi lihlale bantfwana. Ehhovisi lithi umtsetfosisekelo welive kanye nemtsetfo lovikela abantfwana ukubeka embili ukuthi bantfwana balikusasa lalelive. Ichubeka lithi kubavikela akusiyo intfo lekumele yendiwe nje. Kodwa into lekumele ibe ngumkhuba njengoba lemithetho ibavikela. Ehhovisi leliphini landvuna ngikhulu likhumbute sive ekutheni likhonela kusita imindeni lapho idzinga khona lusito ngebantfwana. Ehhovisi liphindze lalilela lemindeni lelahlekelwe ngalesento. Inhlangano yamabhange i-Eswatini Bankers Association yaxwayisa eMaswati ukuthi akacaphele angalutho abozidlani laba bathumelela imilayeto lokungathi iphuma emabhange bese bacela ukujikiselwa leyo mali. Sihlalo walenhlangano Mvuselelo Fakutse uthi eMaswati akanakusise lemilayeto njengalokhu iyaye ibonakale ukuthi ithunyelwe inombolo noma inemininingwane yelibhange.
Baye bathi bangathumela lemlayeto yokuthi bathumelele eMaswati imali bese bayashaya bacela ukujikisela leyo mali. Baye bathi bayithumelele ngesiphosiso nangilomunye walabo zidlana Sholeta acela ukujikisela imali.
Cha bengifundile abantwana ekhaya ngayo base kuyaphambana inombolo lapho nje utawuvita makwakami FD samyenisiwe. Le-apha e-wallet uteni apho e-wallet ngeke ngathi babe ukuthi bongangisita indaba ngosami indawo manje ngibongele ngaphanda emalangeni lo ngathi ngishaye ngalo MTN babe bengembela kona ngoba lo munye umuntu angasho ucabangana ana tikem letikhona ngabe ngishade ngalo shazi mobile ngathi ngishaye ngalo MTN into banalo kuphendela ngosi.
Sihlalo wenhlangano yamabhange eSwatini Bankers Association Vuselelo Fakutse uxwayise eMaswati.
Emabhange phela mangabe umfakushayela kubuda nathi sinathi tincingo ikhona inombolo ye-call center yebhange longayishayela uve ukuthi vele ngini ningishayela kungenza balethide incumbi yebantu eMaswati anabhenka lamatiko hey bani awungiside kungibukela ukuthi kungekho yini lokho but lokumcoka kakhulu labantu laba basuke bangayifaki imali le account yakho. Nawe ke uSwati kufuna wathi ukuthi ingakanani imali account yakho makathi umuntu ungene imali ngisakubuka le message wena ngena kule account yakho ubone ukuthi ibalance yakho seyishintshile invele uma ngabe ibalance yakho ingakashinji shaywa ngimoya ungade hluphe ngalowo muntu loyo ngoba la kufuna lo muntu so uyahati ngandlela tsite ukuthi wena kusho unamalini le account yakho makathi imbuyisele le mali so uhambisa yakho imali la ngayifaki yena sengisho ukuthi ke Maswati akakunakekele kakhulu lokho ngoba kulula kungena kule ngode ukuthi sotawuthumela imali kumuntu longakayithumeli kuwe.
Labanye balabo zidlani labacole eMaswati baye bathi bawathulela imisebenzi ngokwaba bafaka imali yekwenta i-medical test kanti labanye baye bathembise eMaswati lisutho lahulumende bathi abatibongele etindzabeni kubika Fortune Dlangamandla inathemba Shabangu sisembabane.
Kutemidlalo inhlangano leyengamele ibhola kuleli ithi isebenzise imali lelinganiselwa ku-3.5 million emalangeni eminyakeni lemibili endlulile kucashata inkhundla tangaphandle kudlalisa imidlalo yesihlangu semnikati lebesingakhoni ke kudlalela ekhaya ngesizathu sekubabede inkhundla leyo lesezingeni lelifunwa ke yiCAF kanye neFIFA. Lenhlangano ithi ngemidlalo munye kuyibita imali lengu-700,000 emalangeni lokufaka ekhathi kucasha inkhundla emahhotela kanye nekubhadala letinye tidzingo emidlalweni. Lenhlangano ithi kudlala ekhaya kuye kubite imali lengu-5,000 emalangeni nje kuphela emidlalweni munye. Bongosiside phetha lapho tesiswati asibuke simo selitulo sibahlole emakethe sitawubuya sichubeka nelihlelo.
What do you think the best part of traveling is? Is it the food, or is it the conversation, or is it the sights and sound? If you're ready to explore, we are ready to show you the best way how. We'll give you access to the best luxury getaway sites in the Kingdom of Eswatini, and of course show you vacation sites that suit your budget, because you do not need a lot of money to actually have a great time. Join us on the next adventure on Buhle Bethu, only on Eswatini TV.
Let me tell you about my crush. Ngenzane inhliziyo yami embikwa kuwo njengekudala.
Ngondlo yesiswati.
It is 3 in the afternoon. We are back in the living.
For men are so kind towards creation more than they even were to their own creator.
I am the greatest of this generation. They'll be calling me the girl who made poetry look cool, yo. Cool.
Welcome back. Sakuvusela nalosandza kusivulela. It's a Friday. Yadukuthi on Fridays. Sikhuluma donatinza bate kubhadalwa kwemithelo. This week's topic is VAT registration. Umthetho VAT Act requires that any business which supplies goods or services which are not exempt from VAT in Eswatini should apply for VAT registration. It was introduced on the 1st of April 2012 to replace e-sales tax. The ERS has seen a gap on the payment of VAT. I'm joined by ERS Marketing and Communications Manager Antobego Dlamini, VAT registration. Good morning and welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Lulu, and thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Today.
So let's talk about VAT registration. And Antobego, we've talked about this many times with the votes, but what is a VAT? Who is required to register for a VAT?
Okay, sure. Thanks, Lulu, for that. VAT is ngumthelo wetimbahla or phecelezi sithi tax charged on goods and services. And in terms of how VAT works, any business that is looking to charge VAT kumele kusi babhalise na ERS kutokhona kukoleka lowo mthelo we VAT. And once sebabhalisile nathi as ERS, we then issue them with what is called a VAT registration certificate. Only once they have received that certificate are they then able to charge VAT on their products or their services. I think lokunye lokumcoka lesingakuveta ngekukoleka kwemthelo we VAT is inkampani will only remit tax on value that they have added to their goods and services. A common misconception is VAT then charges the business. Gani, in actual fact, there is no additional cost to the business for charging VAT. It's actually the final consumer who pays for that charge.
So, I register for VAT is obviously corporate companies, big companies, register like VAT, and also small business, but to SMEs, makes SME, are they required to register for VAT?
Thanks, Lulu. Ubeka yona ke that question. Akusiyo yonke inkampani lengakhona kubhalisela kukoleka kwe VAT. There are a number of things that at ERS we look at. Sicale sibuke ukuthi what product or service are you uthengisa in, and ngoba sitawukhumbula lokho ukuthi not every product or service can charge VAT or has the ability to charge VAT. Singwanje, for instance, is 0 rated, cannot charge VAT on bread. We also spinza sibuke ukuthi kule business yakho uthengisela okungakanani within the year, because an organization lebane annual turnover ya 500,000 or more is legally obliged to register VAT. But you see, sibanawema cases abosoma business that may not reach that threshold kule annual turnover yabo, but would like to register for VAT. Sibeseke siba accommodate what we call voluntary compliance. So kune compliance where if you are making an annual turnover of X amount, 500,000, you must register for VAT. But if you don't reach that threshold and would like to register, we also accommodate clients there as well.
Okay, because namhla sikhuluma nge-VAT registration, so please take us through the process you register and what documents are required from businesses.
Registering for VAT is quite simple. See, emakhasimende ethu can bangakhona kuvakashela likhasi lethu ka www.ers.org.za, where they will look for something called a TIN application form. Bathi nabangcwalisa ke leli form lelo, kuleli form we look for your company details. Tell us about your company, what service or product you offer. Uphinde usichazele ukuthi where your business is found. We also need to then know what your annual turnover is. You submit that application form to any of our service centers in the country. Noma ungaphinde usi-emailele ku info@ers.org.za or submit it on our online platform or e-tax.
Alright, okay, probably for the consumer, ukuthi mhlamba asaye kuleso store kuyothenga goods or whatever. Ingabe watingani consumer ukuthi okay, this company has registered for VAT. Kude store wathi ukuthi nangibhadalele VAT, nami ngiyathi ukuthi leyo company leyo iyabhadalela VAT ka-IRS.
Thanks, Lulu. I think it's quite a serious topic and an important topic at that. Siyatsanda kukutsata emakhasimende ethu ukuthi if you would like to verify that the business you are dealing with is indeed VAT registered, they can visit our website. We do publish a list of all VAT registered companies that we update regularly. But na bobo soma business siyabakutsata ukuthi na utfolele VAT registration certificate leqhamuka ka-IRS, yifake in your business in a place that is visible for your consumers to be able to see.
Okay. So have you had instances where you had to fine businesses or companies that were charging VAT but not VAT registered?
Yeah, you're touching on quite a contentious topic, and a topic that for as the ERS is a concern for us. We do experience cases of VAT fraud, and VAT fraud inzabalesi sugumelago as ERS. We take a strong stance against it because what that does is it negatively impacts the ERS's ability to collect revenue. And we have recently successfully prosecuted about 5 companies that have had these criminal offenses, ranging from charging for VAT, not being VAT registered, or being VAT registered and not remitting that VAT back to the ERS, or even making false claims on the information that they populate or their returns. So all of those offenses, criminal offenses, really do not only impact the revenue collection, but they create an unequal playing field for those businesses that are compliant and that abide by the law. So as the ERS, we have also created or improved our internal systems to be able to detect this type of fraud quickly and again just prevent it.
So there's still a huge gap in compliance, because you did mention Guguti solo aba submit my returns, but they do charge you VAT.
Yes, we do experience that, and you know, when we do try to understand what the root cause is of this non-compliance, we get a variety of reasons. When I opened a company, my assumption was I can charge VAT. That's not the case. Or you get smaller businesses who will indicate to say maybe they are still waiting for payments on invoices that they have submitted, and hence not having paid the VAT. But I think it's important for business owners to understand, being a VAT registered client, we have two types of payments or payment terms or payment dates to accommodate our clients. We have monthly filers; those are expected to remit VAT on the 27th of every month, and then to accommodate the smaller SMEs who we understand might need a bit more time to collect invoice and payments to those invoices, are able to then submit their VAT returns on a quarterly basis.
Okay. So is it possible that some companies could go on for years without paying VAT if they don't, if bangayendi le 500,000 annual turnover?
Yes, it is possible ukuthi bangayibhadali le VAT, but I think it's important to highlight ukuthi as the ERS we are able to detect organizations that are not paying VAT but are charging. There's a number of systems that we do have in place for that.
I think kokugcina nje Ndobeka nasikhuluma nje mhlambe nge-VAT cancellation because akhona amabhizinisi labasolo mhlambe babuka ukuthi they don't make much profit, so sebeva ngathi they want to cancel their VAT registration. How do they go about doing that?
I think naleyo is quite an important one. Siyathanda lokubuta ukuthi what is the reason for wanting to deregister from being a VAT taxpayer, because we do have to remind our clients that if nangabe you're a business that is still maintaining the threshold yellow 500,000, so your annual turnover still falls within that threshold, you cannot simply just deregister that, because that would mean you're now non-compliant. But we have cases where maybe some businesses or bukabuti ufuna kuyivala inkampani yakhe noma so yehluleka loku maintain noma kumitha le threshold ya 500,000 vele akasafiki kule criteria, then that business owner uyakhona kusibhalela simside ke with the deregistration process, but isiphinde sisithathe ke nale certificate sale VAT registration.
All right, lastly, your contact details because bangaxhumana nani kanjani?
Thanks, Lulu. I think should any of our clients want to reach out to us, we do have a contact center where we are available on 2406 4050. They can email us at info@ers.org.sz. We also have a WhatsApp number 7606 3735. We're also available on Facebook. We are present on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and YouTube as well.
All right, thank you so much, Siwangakulu Ndobeka. There you have it on VAT registration. Tinkapani tibucelelekile ukuthi tibhalisele VAT registration with the ERS. Let's take a break. Nasibuya sikhuluma nge-Data Protection Act.
Level up your breakfast game this year with our delicious and convenient back-to-school breakfast hampers from Mbveni, such as the penning hamper for 128 emalangeni and 99 cents, instrumental hamper for only 320 emalangeni, and the ruling hamper for 569 emalangeni and 99 cents. Head over to any Mbveni meat market store today. Mbveni, making meal times special.
Welcome back. Sakuvusela nolosandza kusivule la besibedine ukuthi sistabe sikhulumisana nebaka Isicom njengoba nje kutawucala i-Data Protection Week evikini lelitako. Kubalekile ukuthi inkampani tigcine imininingwane yamakhasimende iphephile kude ingatowela etandleni temathabelangoti. I-Data Protection Act ke yagcizelela ngebumcoka bekugcina imininingwane yamakhasimende. I'm joined by Isicom's Data Protection Manager Sicelo Simelana kutokhuluma nje nge-Data Protection Week lecala on Monday next week. Isicom, the Eswatini Data Protection Agency, will be commemorating the first ever National Data Protection Week from the 22nd to the 28th of January. There will be an event where there will be a panel discussion about the data protection principles and the data protection. kahle kahle yindlela bomcoko ukuthi service amaswati starting data protection kumcwanga nje ukuthi sathi ukuthi imininingwane yaso kumele ukuthi ivikeleke.
Siyabonga lo komcoka ngona lo bokusho lokuthi imininingwane yethu nje uwedwa igcwele noma kuphi unemininingwane yakho lesemabhange imininingwane lesesibedlela une personal data yakho ngaba nglawa kwafunza khona nala ungena khona bakufune yonke idata yakho etitolo data yakho nje uwedwa izolova so kumcoka ke lo thwati ngayo ngoba ngolokwenda ukuthi nga 2022 bese kushaya lo mthetho we Data Protection Act lo delegate to govern how we deal with personal data and how do we protect personal data. So kumcoka kakhulu because na unga le data yakho nangabe ingasebenziseka kabi sesikubonile then a lot of fraudulent activities ayendeka on your personal information.
Alright, uthinta nje indzaba ye Data Protection Act. I think mu section 9 ukhuluma ngendaba yoku process our personal information. How should it be collected and how should it be kept?
Do section 9 ngena lo mcoka kuyo yonke le act ikakhulu ngoba usinika indlela yokuthi i-data reprocess kanjani. Kwecala kunama principles dosongena kuwo kwecala ukuthi lo muntu loyithatha kuyo must have been informed in order to consent to that data. Kwesibili ngalokuthi you must collect data that is necessary for the purpose. Nangabe nje kuze ngivule leyo account noma kusesitolo noma kusebhange uthi i-ID yami nethi ngihlalaphi thatha lokho kuphela. Lenye information yokuthi married next of kin nabo kunabayidingeki for that purpose. You don't collect that information. We call it data minimization. So ngileti into leto lokuthi lo section 9 usinika indlela ukuthi uthatha lenganani information kumuntu futhi uyithatha kanjani. Uphinze ke uthi nangabe utawuthatha leyo information ukunika i-challenge ukuthi utayistorisha njani kuphi who is going to have access to that personal information or those personal files ngaphandle kwalomnikati wawo. Indlela ke letinenge indlela ukuthi ungayibeka kanjani lo mthetho ke uyasiguide ekutheni sidakwenda kanjani lokho.
So have you had cases kumishandlishwa kwe data over the past years njengoba ningi esecom nje I think mhlambe kuba khona investigations leniba nawo namhlanje ama reports leniba nawo nje ngawo lama cases lawo.
Sicale kusebenta kulomnyaka ophelile nga December kule hlangothi le data protection ngepha sesidile nawe ama cases I think lang 5 ekumisa English akwe data ngeke kwanyalo siwasho lamoyeni ukuthi ngimaphi kepha lamanye nje atholakala ku website yethu lesike sawa decide la sikhanze khona ukuthi cha lapha ayikaphatheki kahle le information yabantu and siyachubeka futhi kunalamanye nje lesawa investigator nanyalo because lo mthetho uyavuma nethi abantu bangacomplaina ukuthi data yami ngathi ayikaphatheki kahle lapha so vele ngumsebenzi omkhulu nanyalo vele sisethu kwawo kepha ke siyabona lokuthi lokunye kubangwa ngikona mhlawumbe nalokungathi nethi kunalo mthetho nalokungathi lokuthi ke ema obligations yini ngiko nje bese ke sesenda le data protection week to raise awareness ukuthi sekunetinto leti kanjena i-data yabantu iphatha kanjani.
Yakhumbula ukuthi I think it was last year bekune inkampani iEbomini Consultants I think beyikhona nje ukutofundisa kabantu organizations and companies on the Data Protection Act. Kubuda nje ukuthi mhlambe lokwavela lapha kulomhlangano do ema companies nema organizations understand I role yabo nema implications nasibuka le Data Protection Act.
Ngicabanga ukuthi nathi sesikwendile futhi siyachubeka nekufundisa intona nenkampani kunjalo bakhona abanye la sebathathe nalo lithuba lokuthi bafundise inkampani in their private capacity kepha nje lokuvelako ngiloko ukuthi njengaloku usisho lo mthetho ushayo nga 2022 usesemshanyana banye dinenkampani okhanza sibethi sengawadi lokuthi uthini siyakubona ke lokho nangabe sihamba futhi siyeva noma sidibana nato inkampani lokho sicha lokunye bekusesekusho vele besengakwadi thina nje idata yemuntu besithatha siyibeka noma kanjani kepha ke lo mthetho sowufikile so uyasho ukuthi asiyigcine njani sidakwenda shokwe ukuthi sihambisana nale migomo yaleyo mthetho.
Ngisho ukuthi inkampani selicalile vele ku implementa nje mahotela
setivele ticalile ikakhulu leli tinkulu nje emabhange sekacalile amabhange labanye kavela kwenda sekacalile emabhange sesiwabonile sibonile tinkampani amahlala ekhokhweni setivele tisukumele etulu idata nje umuntu ayisaveli noma kanjani kepha akusito todwa leto inkumbi nabo insurance sesingenile sebacalile kwenda imigomo lesho ukuthi idata yabantu sidabo igcina kanjani siyalibona lesasasa ukuthi abantu bayabona lokuthi nawe akayigcini kahle le data nawo lama customer akho ngeke kwethembe kepha nakade ukuthi information yami iphephile lapha bayakhona ke kuyethemba leyo nkampani bangayinika leyo information leyidingako ngabo.
Okay, so from next week nje 22nd to the 28th ne-Isicom kutabe ngumaphi nje ama-activities lentabe eniwenda
vele sibuka kakhulu le yona lehlangosi la awareness sitabe senda kona lokuthi sivusetele sisensitize tinkampani nebantu ngoba le theme yalonyaka ithi take control of your data losho ukuthi kucala ngawe wena umnikati wale data lokuthi uyiprotecta njani uyinika bani nakwende njani futhi na umnika unesiciniseko sini sekuthi utayigcina njani so sitabe ke sente ama activities inqumbi lesitabe khona si raise awareness sitabe sikhona tonke tingoni tekuchumana njalo namhla silapha nje kaSwazi TV sitabe sikhona nakubo Twitter nakubo Facebook lapho khona igcwele khona idata yabantu lapho khona abantu bayifaka kakhulu le data yabo sitabe sikhona lapho sisenda nema quiz bo Facebook quiz sibutana imibuto lokuthi ngabe vele wati kanganani ngale Data Protection Act leli viki nje lelitaba ngileli busy bese kuthi ke ngalo mhla ka 26 ngilelanga ke lelikhulu lesitabe sesibayeni lodge si celebrate noma si commemorate the International Data Protection Day kuba lilanga lapho khona mhlaba wonke kukhunywa indzaba data protection livama ukuthi libe mhla ka 28 ngalothi ke 28 lisondo sikhethe lo 26 ngiko ke lilanga lelikhulu sitabe sihlanganye nemhlaba wonke nje ku celebrate noma commemorate indzaba data protection ngalelo langa kepha nje kusuka kuleli viki awukonke vele kutabe ku data protection kids.
Okay, I think sisabuka nje lapho kule ndzaba ye personal information uyakhanza ukuthi labanye nje ngibekisa mhlambe nga Facebook bayifaka yonke information yabo ukuthi badalwa nini bakhulela kuphi bahlala kuphi manje how safe is that nje nasibuka nje mhlambe indzaba tekugcinwa kwe data kahle
lelo bekisa ngako ngikona lokukhombisa kona lokho ukuthi vele siye ngithe ecaleni ithi le theme take control of your data nathi nawe nje na ufaka le information leyo ku Facebook watani nohlala kuphi vele usuku utshela bani kufuna icala na utibute lokho nalosi ke tinkampani efana bo Facebook atifihli lesitayindane le data na ufunza privacy policy yayo bayakutshela ukuthi batayindane le data bayakutshela futhi ukuthi ito access wabobani bayakutshela futhi ukuthi lamanye letinkampani tiyakutshela ukuthi nje sitayithengisa nasithengisa na uklikha lo agree uvuma ke konke lokho so labanye abafihli lo sibatayindane le data bayifunelane ngoba vele ukufunelani konke lokuthi ngoba futhi baze uzubuke lokuthi kulamanye ama applications baze bafune kuba ukuthi bane access to your pictures access to your contacts unatibuta wena usikuta wendekani lokho kwani lokho ngoba wona bofuna nje account so ngile into leto ke lesitabe sizama ukukhulumisana nato ngebantu kuleli viki lokuthi phela I data yakho take control of it akudecide wena ukuthi ukhipha lenganani kuyisa ngaphandle.
Alright, no, sibonga kakhulu ke vakala Simelane Mbukeli. So devele Data Protection Awareness Week lecala on the 22nd to the 28th of January sukela next week Monday. Tabase ukuthi on Friday bese kuba ne panel discussion lapho khona kutabana le official launch yalo leli langa. Let's take a break nasibuya sida ucibeka nehlelo.
We at Eswatini Television Authority are committed to observing the Eswatini Communication Commission's Broadcasting Code of Conduct.
Under the code, we are committed to broadcast news that is current, free from hate speech, accurate, balanced, and fair.
From politics to business, health, agriculture, courts, and global news, we bring you the latest updates as they happen, when they happen.
We cover all the sporting codes from the football pitch to the chessboards.
This is Eswatini TV News.
What do you think the best part of traveling is? Is it the food, or is it the conversation, or is it the sights and sound? If you're ready to explore, we are ready to show you the best way how. We'll give you access to the best luxury getaway sites in the Kingdom of Eswatini, and of course show you vacation sites that suit your budget, because you do not need a lot of money to actually have a great time. Join us on the next adventure on Buhle Bethu, only on Eswatini TV.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. This is the news at 7. His Excellency the Prime Minister Russell Miso Dlamini has left Eswatini for Uganda, where he will be representing His Majesty King Mswati III at the 19th Non-Aligned Movement Summit for Heads of State and Government. The Premier says he will then fly to Italy for the Italy-Africa Summit. The Premier has left the country through the King Mswati III International Airport on Thursday morning.
His Excellency the Prime Minister Russell Miso Dlamini says the two meetings will end on the 31st of January 2024.
Siyahamba siya eUganda lapho khona siyokumela inkosi isithulile kunenkulumo esitayithula egameni layo inkosi ingonyama yelive phinde sendlule siye phambili eUganda sitaba nemhlangano wemave langangenelani netindzaba talamanye emave lokumqoka wakhona ukuthi le mave ayehlangane njalo abuke ukuthi angathuthukisana kanjani tindzaba tini labangakhulumisa babambisane ngalo bahlupha bese sesiyenza sesiya eItaly khona kunemhlangano Italy Africa Summit lapho khona iItaly yakhuluma nemave lamanye eAfrica ngomhlolwane nangibambisana letentuthuko.
News reports state that the Italy-Africa Summit had to be held last November. However, it was postponed to early 2024 because of global conflicts. The news reports say although information about the meeting is a bit scarce, the issue of energy sharing will be on the table. For Eswatini TV News, Temgosima Vimbela with Temba Shabangu, King Mswati III International Airport.
His Excellency the Prime Minister Russell Dlamini has arrived in Kampala, Uganda, where he will represent His Majesty King Mswati III and the nation at the 19th Non-Aligned Movement Summit of Heads of State and Government and the G7 China Summit, respectively. The Minister of Finance, Honorable Neil Reichenberg, says the ever-increasing prices on commonly procured goods does not only deplete government coffers, but also adversely affects the economic stability of the country. The Minister was speaking during the launch of the Market Prices Reference Study held at Esibani Sami Hotel in Manzini, in Zuluni.
The Eswatini Procurement Regulatory Agency instituted a market prices reference study to ascertain the market value of commonly procured goods. The Minister of Finance, Honorable Neil Reichenberg, says procurement consumes about 22.6% of the national budget.
As the government, we have an obligation to maximize every cent in our budget. Thus, better management of public procurement sector with increased transparency, efficiency and value for money is critical for achieving economic growth and boosting shared prosperity for all. It's imperative that we address the existing issue of overpricing, be it for common use items or any sector of our government services, which does not only deplete government funds, but further hampers economic growth and sustainability.
The Chief Executive Officer of the Eswatini Public Procurement Regulatory Agency, Vusumutu Wendota Matebula, says government departments and state-owned enterprises should not withhold information sought by the regulator, as this is a legal requirement.
Whenever we find maybe a single source procurement or a quotation, a request for quotation procurement, we would want to find out the reasons why they prefer that method, because of the minimized transparency within those methods. Now you find that then maybe municipalities, the SOEs, and also central government ministries, they are not so happy with giving out that information. And unfortunately, it's a challenge, because then we are not able to advise in terms of the public spend in the country and also the methods why those methods were engaged.
The study, in which SEPAC was contracted to carry out, compiled about 17,000 goods and varying pricing for reference. Reporting for Eswatini TV, Mbongwa Dube, Ezulwini.
The Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Honorable Apollo Mapalala, says skills and resource sharing between municipal councils and communities around towns and cities is important in helping the country to develop. The minister said this during his visit to the Manzini city to familiarize himself with operations of the council.
Upon arrival at the Manzini Municipal Council chambers, the Honorable Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Honorable Apollo Mapalala, was received by Her Worship the Mayor, Nozipo Kamete, who thanked the Honorable Minister for taking out time to familiarize himself with the operations of the City Council. The Chief Executive Officer of the Manzini City Council, Lungile Dlamini, informed the Honorable Minister that the city has implemented projects worth about 300 million emalangeni in the last 5 years.
The municipality is at consultation stage with the Ministry of Public Works and Transport for the construction and upgrading of the MR3 highway joining Manzini Interchange to Nazarene Cross Junction.
Some of these projects are the Autism Respite Center, the tarring of about 65% of the country's roads, and the renovation of the city's main market. She also lamented the stoppage of government subvention to the city council.
The constitution it's within 5 years, it's a single countrywide local government. And lenema synergies lati kute rural na urban dichotomy. Normally, lokuvuleka kwemkhathi nomadolobha netindzawo letisemakhaya. Was the competence of physical planning, housing and urban development. But we seem to concentrate it to declared urban areas. Council mandate to national.
The Honorable Minister applauded Council for their hard work. The Honorable Minister is expected to proceed to other towns of the country to familiarize himself with their work. Reporting for Eswatini TV, I am Mbongwa Dube in Manzini.
Ministry of Natural Resources and Energy Principal Secretary Dokwaz Lamini says river basins face severe pressure from different fronts. She says this is why they have met with stakeholders to draft a funding proposal that will avail resources for improved water management. The meeting was held at Emafini on Thursday.
The Kingdom of Eswatini shares water with the Republic of South Africa and Mozambique. These three countries are separately working on a project that aims to strengthen integrated transboundary management of water resources.
The main objective is to build and strengthen cooperation and collaboration in the project area and to support basin-wide integrated and systematic planning, management and development while following a source to the sea approach. An important initiative that is incorporated in this project is the identification of pilot projects, one for each country that will be implemented once the project gets to the execution stage.
The Ministry of Tourism and Environmental Affairs supports the move.
It's a portfolio we need to work on actively between last year up to year 4, which is 2027. 3 billion we can mobilize. That's our minimum.
The United Nations Development Programme has also thrown its weight behind the project.
just to stress the importance of sustainable water resource management and the protection of vital ecosystems, linking these to the overall enhanced environmental security and livelihood. These river basins are not only a source of water, but they're also a source of livelihood for agricultural and other source of livelihoods. And so it's doubly important to ensure, because water is life. Without water, how do we live? How do we grow the foods and livestock that we need?
The Kingdom of Eswatini plans to submit more funding proposals to potential donors, so to ensure that the kingdom goes green. For Eswatini TV News, Temgosi Mavimbela with Temba Shabangu, Emafini.
The Ministry of Education and Training under Secretary Naniki Mnisi says by February 2nd, government working together with the macro project will have completed reconstructing 54 schools that were damaged by hailstorms. Mnisi says the reconstruction of the schools would cost government at least 47 million emalangeni. These schools were those that were damaged by December last year and early this year hailstorms.
We're working very hard using micro projects to attend to those schools that were affected, which amongst others may include San Filomena Primary, Uhlagotla, and also Mhupe High School. And as we speak, the contract is on site in all regions, as we also have 2 new schools in Manzini region that were affected, in Matapa in particular. We also have Gwalini Primary School here in Horo region. Also in the Shiselani region, we have 1 school that we're attending with other stakeholders in government to ensure that the smooth opening of schools and every Swazi people or child access education as expected. So we are getting help from the Minister of Finance and other stakeholders, and we appreciate this kind of assistance, because this is an anomaly, something that came all of a sudden. It was unexpected on government's part, but government always put aside funds for such eventualities, which were just not in our plans. As a ministry, we are delivering books as we have started, and the media can attest to that, as we have seen in the newspapers, and we're also starting to deliver food in all the schools.
The 3 church bodies, League of African Churches, the Council of Eswatini Churches, as well as the Eswatini Conference of Churches, have described the deceased ex-chairperson of Council of Eswatini Churches, Reverend Begindlela Magongo, as someone who played a huge role in ensuring unity among the church bodies. Magongo was Council of Eswatini Churches chairperson for almost 5 years. In other news from the Deputy Prime Minister's office, the Deputy Prime Minister's office says it is saddened by reports of the killing of 3 children through poisoning by their mother. The DPM's office says the nation has a responsibility to raise awareness on the importance of protecting children and ensure that Eswatini is fit for every child. The office says Maswati should remember that the Constitution of the Kingdom of Eswatini and the Children's Act have the highest regard for children. It also says protecting children from violence is not only a basic value but also an obligation clearly set out in these legislative frameworks. The DPM's office says Maswati should know that it remains committed to assisting parents and families in caring for children. It also extended its condolences and sympathy to the affected families. The Eswatini Bankers Association cautions Maswati to be aware of scammers who are sending them fake in-contact messages. The scammers then ask unsuspecting receivers to send the money back. The association's chairperson, Vuselelo Faguse, says Maswati should pay attention to the text messages sent by the scammers, as they indicate that they are from mobile numbers instead of banks. In our international news, Ecuador prosecutor is investigating a TV studio attack, shot dead.
A car riddled with bullet holes, the scene of an assassination. Crime prosecutor Cesar Suarez was on his way to a court hearing when gang members opened fire on his vehicle. Officials say it's a bloody escalation of an ongoing war between the Ecuadorian government and criminal groups.
This event has saddened us as an institution. We are carrying out preliminary investigations at the scene of the events. Our objective, as in any other case of violent death, is ensuring that this case does not go unpunished.
Suarez had been in charge of pursuing organized crime in Guayas province, one of the country's most violent areas, and the site of an armed takeover on television last week. Suarez was in charge of leading the investigation on the dramatic attack, which saw gunmen storm the set of a live broadcast and take hostages. Ecuadorian President Daniel Noboa has since announced a 60-day state of emergency and has declared a war on drug gangs, designating 22 criminal groups as terrorist organizations. The once peaceful South American country has become a hub for the global export of cocaine from neighbors Colombia and Peru. The prosecutor's assassination is the latest among a wave of gang-related attacks in recent weeks that have left dozens dead.
Pakistan's Air Force launched retaliatory airstrikes early on Thursday in Iran, allegedly targeting militant hideouts, an attack that killed at least 9 people and further raised tensions between the neighboring nations. The tit-for-tat attacks on Tuesday and Thursday appeared to target 2 Baloch militant groups with similar separatist goals on both sides of the Iran-Pakistan border.
Footage purports to show the aftermath of a strike on a city in eastern Iran. On Thursday, the Pakistani Foreign Ministry said it had conducted strikes in Iran's Sistan-Baluchistan province, targeting what it described as terrorist hideouts.
This morning, Pakistan undertook a series of highly coordinated and specifically targeted precision military strikes against terrorist hideouts in Sistan-Baluchistan province of Iran. A number of terrorists were killed. This morning's action was taken in light of credible intelligence of impending large-scale terrorist activities against Pakistan by these terrorists.
According to a Pakistani intelligence source, the strikes were carried out by military aircraft targeting militants belonging to BLF Balochistan Liberation Front, which seeks independence for Pakistan's Balochistan province. Iranian state media, meanwhile, reported several women and children were killed in explosions in the country's southeast. The strikes come just a day after Tehran hit a village in Pakistan, in its southwestern Balochistan province. Speaking at Davos, Iran's foreign minister defended Tehran's strike and said Iran targeted the village because it harbored terrorists from the Iranian Jaish al-Adl group. The group has carried out several attacks on Iranian soil in recent years.
We respect the integrity of Pakistan. We respect the integrity of Iraq, but we will not allow them to play with the security of our country.
Earlier in the week, Iran targeted what it called anti-Iranian terror groups in Syria. Tehran said they were involved in a twin bombing claimed by the Islamic State group that left scores dead and wounded in the Iranian city of Kerman. In northern Iraq, on the same day as the Syria strike, Tehran hit what it called an Israeli spy headquarters, allegations rejected by both Iraqi and Kurdish authorities.
Tensions have been high between neighbors Pakistan and Iran since each conducted airstrikes on the other's territory this week in pursuit of militants. Analysts say statements show both sides want to de-escalate.
Pakistan said Thursday that its early morning strikes inside Iran were not an attack on its neighbor.
The sole objective of today's act was in pursuit of Pakistan's own security and national interest, which is paramount and cannot be compromised.
In the operation codenamed Death to Terrorists, Pakistan said it killed several terrorists of Pakistani origin across the border. A military statement said maximum care was taken to avoid collateral damage, but Iran said 4 children and 3 women were among the 9 dead. The attack came in response to Iran's strikes inside Pakistan on Tuesday. Tehran said it targeted only Iranian terrorists, but Islamabad said 2 Pakistani children were killed and at least 3 civilians were injured. Tehran also fired missiles at targets in Syria and Iraq this week.
Perhaps this irresponsible act of aggression, not just against Pakistan, but also against Iraq and Syria, is a consequence of the political need of the ideological leadership of Iran to divert and diffuse domestic and external pressure.
The pressure, experts say, comes from the Israel-Hamas war in Gaza that has killed thousands of Palestinians. They say Hamas and Houthi rebels, both of which the US has designated as terror outfits, as well as Lebanon-based Hezbollah, want Iran to do more. Islamabad and Tehran often push each other to act against anti-state militants active along the border. Pakistani observers say the country had no choice but to retaliate.
Anyone can then use this argument that, there are militants sitting in Pakistan and come and attack it. So the response was necessary, cautious but necessary.
After the strikes, both sides issued statements that referred to each other as brotherly countries and implied that no fighter jets violated airspace and no boots were put on the ground.
There is a desire, an inclination to exercise restraint and manage escalation to prevent uncontrolled escalation, which will not be in the interest of either Pakistan and Iran.
Pakistan is home to mostly Sunni Muslims, while the majority of Iran's Muslims are Shiite. Siddiqa worries the latest tension could spiral into sectarian strife.
Pakistan has been through the 90s through a very bad patch of sectarian violence. So I think there is no option for either Iran or Pakistan but to talk to each other and to cool down the temperature. It has to find the right partners that can sit, who can help and do that conversation.
China has said it's willing to play a role if both sides wish. For now, Islamabad has suspended diplomatic ties with Tehran.
The United States on Wednesday put Yemen's Houthi rebels back on its list of specially designated global terrorists, piling financial sanctions on top of American military strikes in the Biden administration's latest attempt to stop the militants' attack on the global shipping. The terrorist designation will come into effect in 1 month.
Western leaders warned the Houthis repeatedly of consequences if the Iran-backed Yemeni rebel group continued attacks on commercial ships in the Red Sea. The US and UK have already launched joint airstrikes. Now, a different kind of strike. Washington has redesignated the Houthis as a terrorist group.
This will give us tools, not just to go after them, but also to enable the imposition of sanctions on any other bad actors who support them. It provides additional bases for U.S. law enforcement action. It generally just gives us more tools to go after their access to funds that we want to deny them.
The terrorist designation will come into effect in 1 month. The White House said it would reevaluate if the Houthis ceased their attacks. The Houthis say they have no intention of changing their actions. The group, also known as Ansar Allah, said its attack on ships in the Red Sea are in support of Palestinians and are aimed only at Israeli vessels or those they believe are en route to Israel.
The American decision to designate Ansar Allah in the US terrorism list comes in the service of the Zionist entity and to support its criminal war in Gaza, which is a terrorist war in every sense of the word. It is also an attempt to dissuade Yemen from its position supporting Palestine and Gaza, and an attempt to blackmail Yemen.
The Houthis were on the list only briefly in the past. They were added to it in the final days of the Trump administration, but removed within weeks of Biden taking office in January 2021. That was to ensure aid wouldn't be impeded from entering Yemen, which after years of civil war has been suffering from a devastating humanitarian crisis that's left hundreds of thousands of people starving and millions on the brink. On Wednesday, the Biden administration said the people of Yemen should not pay the price for Houthi actions. It's included exemptions for humanitarian aid and for all commercial shipments bringing food and medicine to Yemen.
Turkey has joined with Bulgaria and Romania to clear mines from the Black Sea, facilitating Ukrainian efforts to export grain to world markets. But as Dorian Jones reports from Istanbul, Turkey is also resisting calls to allow NATO mine clearing ships.
In Istanbul this month, Turkey, Bulgaria and Romania signed an agreement to clear mines in the Black Sea from the Ukrainian war. With several cargo ships already hit, mines are an increasing menace to one of the world's most important waterways for exporting grain and energy.
Because the merchant ships cannot detect these mines as they are semi-submerged on the water, and when they detect them, it might be late for them to save themselves.
Analysts say removing the threat of mines will be a significant boost to Ukraine's efforts to export grain to world markets after the collapse of a grain exporting deal with Russia, brokered by Turkey and the United Nations. Analysts say Russia is threatening Ukrainian exports by saying it cannot guarantee the safety of the ships. But Ankara hopes increasing security for Ukrainian ships could be an impetus for Moscow to return to the grain deal with Ukraine.
I hope that it is very beneficial for the Ukraine side in order to export the grain. You remember that Russia was withdrawal of this. Other side in the, perhaps the Russia may come again to the table. Hey, come on and we discuss together.
The Turkish Navy has modern mine-clearing capabilities and the support of Romania and Bulgaria. But observers warn the challenge facing the NATO allies is considerable.
The locations and numbers of the sea mines are unknown, and you have to detect them first. You have to seek and destroy. They take time.
Britain has offered to deploy mine-clearing ships, but Turkey, citing the International Montreux Convention, has been blocking entry to all warships since the start of the Ukraine war. As a member of NATO, Turkey is balancing its relations with the West and with Russia and Ukraine in a bid to end the conflict. Analysts say removing the danger of mines from vital trade routes in the Black Sea would be a small step toward that goal.
Hundreds of protesters clashed with police in the Russian region in -20 degrees on Wednesday in a rare display of public outrage after a court convicted a local activist and sentenced him to prison.
It's a rare sight in Russia. Riot police out to confront protesters, angry at the jailing of activist Fail Alsinov.
According to Part 5 of Clause 282 of the Russian Criminal Code, Fail Alsinov is found guilty and sentenced to 4 years in corrective colony.
Outside the courthouse, crowds throw snowballs and clash with the police in -20 degrees. Their reaction to the decision taken against the local rights campaigner. They met with tear gas in what's one of the biggest protests since the government upped its crackdown on public opposition to the Kremlin. The small town of Baymak is part of the Republic of Bashkortostan. Fail Alsinov says his words were mistranslated after he spoke in the local Bashkir language at a meeting and was charged for insulting migrant workers. Alsinov denies this, saying he was referring to poor people instead and was previously fined for criticising the war in Ukraine.
I've always fought for justice, for my people, for my republic. I don't understand these actions coming from the head of the Republic of Bashkortostan towards the people who came today to support me. I don't know what will happen to them.
Russia's investigative committee says it's opened criminal cases into, quote, mass rioting, which can be punished by up to 15 years in prison. Alsinov has reportedly been added to a list of terrorists by a government agency. This after an uncommon moment of unrest that comes just 3 months before the general elections.
UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak survived a key test of his leadership on Wednesday, fending off right-wing rebels to win a crunch parliamentary vote on his contentious plan to send migrants to Rwanda. Lawmakers voted 320 to 276 to back a bill intended to overcome a UK Supreme Court block on the Rwanda plan.
120, the noes to the left 276.
A victory with a sour taste for Rishi Sunak. The British Prime Minister may have defeated a Conservative rebellion over his landmark immigration bill, but in doing so exposed deep-running divisions within his own party.
What a farce. Today and yesterday have been just another day of Tory chaos and carnage. The only thing the Tories all seem to agree on is that the scheme is failing, the law won't solve it, and the Prime Minister is failing too.
The so-called Rwanda plan, which aims to deport migrants arriving illegally in the UK to Rwanda to process their asylum claims, has faced opposition from both sides of the political spectrum. On Tuesday, around 60 Conservative lawmakers proposed a series of amendments to strengthen the bill, but were defeated in the House of Commons. And while most of the rebels ended up reluctantly backing the plan in the lower house on Wednesday, Sunak is now walking on thin ice. Faced with major dissent within his own camp, the Prime Minister will hope to unite the Tory party behind the scheme with support from his cabinet.
This bill sends an unambiguously clear message that if you enter the United Kingdom illegally, you cannot stay.
The Rwanda scheme has also been heavily criticized by opposition lawmakers who say it's flawed, expensive, inhumane, and possibly violates international law. The bill is now likely to spark more controversy and debate as it heads to Parliament's upper house for approval.
Tens of thousands of public sector workers in Northern Ireland walked off the job on Thursday in what one union boss said could be the biggest strike in the province. Around 16 trade unions representing teachers, civil servants, nurses and transport workers were expected to join picket lines and rallies, according to organizers.
Servants and transport workers brought Northern Ireland to a halt on Thursday under the banners of around 16 trade unions. Their demands, better wages, in line with the pay deals that have been offered to public sector workers in the rest of the UK, and an end to the savage budget cuts in recent years, putting Northern Irish healthcare workers among those worse off than their equivalents elsewhere in the union.
And those who are in power have the power to make this difference and to release funds to help improve our health service, but they just won't do that. We're not just fighting for pay parity, we're fighting for our patients.
Thursday's industrial action pushed waiting times at Belfast's Royal Victoria Hospital Emergency Unit up to 7 hours as workers lined the streets outside. The UK government did offer a £3.3 billion financial package, which could have begun to help rehabilitate struggling public services. But amid a political crisis within the devolved Stormont administration, the UK Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, Chris Heaton-Harris, said the money could not be released, a claim trade unionists dispute.
It's time to release the funds so everyone gets the pay rise that they deserve. The time of using each and every one of you as political pawns in a game to get our political institutions up and running is over.
The DUP has been boycotting the Stormont Assembly over post-Brexit trading rules for nearly 2 years, meaning Parliament has not sat and Westminster will not release the funds. But if no resolution is found to alleviate the austerity, unions are already promising that Thursday's strike is just the beginning.
Paris woke up to a dusting of snow on Thursday as temperatures dipped below 0 degrees. Parisians and tourists revel as snow blankets French capital's monuments.
A snowman sentry in Arras stands by as snowball fights are staged in the town square. Residents are enjoying the unexpected snowfall, snapping photos, making mini snowmen, and just having fun being outdoors.
We love it. You can see the way the square looks. Everyone's like a bunch of kids having snowball fights and everyone's sliding down the slopes. It's great fun.
Having the time to enjoy it, getting the ski poles out. It's rare that we get snow like this here. When I was young, yes, but it's been a couple of years since we saw as much snow as we do now.
On Thursday, Paris woke up to a dusting of snow on the rooftops and sidewalks, turning the City of Light into a winter wonderland. Some amateur photographers headed to Montmartre to snap views of the snow-covered landscape, while residents went about their business, walking their dogs and running errands. Still, sidewalks were icy and signs were posted to warn people to be careful. The weather also snarled traffic and caused transport delays in the Ile-de-France region. With temperatures expected to dip below freezing, France's weather service is warning of black ice and urging drivers to take precautions.
In our sports news, Eswatini Football Association has spent around 3.5 million malangeni on stadiums, rental, books, accommodation and other necessities to host Sihlangu, CAF and FIFA competitions in the last 2 years. The association says each game costs 700 malangeni compared to only 5,000 malangeni per game that is spent when Sihlangu plays at home either at Somhlolo National Stadium or Mavuso Sports Center.
Beginning of 2022, CAF banned Mavuso Sports Center from hosting CAF and FIFA games due to the fact that it was not up to standard. Banning Mavuso was just the last hope, as at that point Somhlolo National Stadium had already been banned. The decision called for the Football Association to then move Sihlangu AFCON qualifiers game against Burkina Faso to the FNB Stadium in June, and also went on in July to move their CHAN qualifiers against Botswana at Orlando Stadium in South Africa, with the two games costing around 1.4 million emalangeni, based on stadium bookings, accommodations, match officials, working personnel, amongst other things. In 2023, the costs were higher, as a total of 3 games hosted away, the association spent around 2.1 million emalangeni, which brought a total of around 3.5 million emalangeni for the duration of the 2 years. Speaking to Eswatini TV Sports, Chief Executive Officer of the Football Association, Frederick Ngometuro, he says the cost at times changes depending on where you have decided to play the game. Went on to confirm that the difference is that if Sihlangu was to play their games at home, either at Mavuso or at Somhlolo National Stadium, the expenditure will be at least 5,000 emarangeni per game, which would have brought a total of 25,000 emarangeni for all the games played in 2 years. For Eswatini TV Sports, Fabrice Msunera, Mbabane.
News Bulletin, thank you for staying with us. Let's take a break. We'll resume shortly.
Because if you are to look at where they are standing, the remaining games of the season, I mean, they have started 2024 on a high note. Right. Now, I would say this is their second win of the year, because they beat Sisonke during the Inuyama Cup in the last 32. They went on to beat Green Mamba. But the game you are referring to, I think this is the league we want to watch. This is the football we want to watch. You come as a team at the bottom of the log. You defeat the defending champions. Coming to the games, there were a lot of talks, you know, it will be a walk in the park for Green Mamba, but a lot of controversy, because you'll have to talk about the disallowed goal for Green Mamba. It brought a lot of also noise to say, was that an offside? But was it an offside? In my opinion, it wasn't, in my opinion, because I had to double check, because at some point I thought maybe they were using a different rule in declaring it an offside. You'd have to use when a player is interfering with the play, but you look at how the situation was. Actually, you have said that it was supposed to be a goal for Green Mamba. But we have to stick to the results. The entire game, we saw Green Mamba, yes, was playing, but defending well was Manzini Wanderers. They defended very well in their numbers. They were not pressured. They controlled the game. But for their captain, fantastic, Captain Laba, Ngambule Mlamodi, what a finish. What a finish. And I think, it's been training even on social media. One would say courtesy of Eswatini TV, because we're shooting that game live. So it's a good game. Second win of the year in different competition. And there it is. I think at Mavuso midweek, the supporters are in their numbers. They have got a game in Inuyama Cup this weekend. I mean, look at this instance. Look, the player who's following the ball in the net. Right. People think the player who is inside that's Default Njaburo, the one in a green outfit. He's not actually because the one with the ball right now. Yes. I like it how they're holding it here. The one with the ball right now, he's in an offside position. Number 7, the green number player. Look what happens. Let's go a bit front. Here, he's not in a position, even the moment he received the ball. From the moment he received the ball, he's still not in an offside position.
He's not offside at all.
So the problem is the other player in the far corner, did he interfere with the play? No, he didn't interfere in the play.
Right.
So Xavi, the number 7,
so it's a goal.
Lob it for the goalkeeper for Gomishe. It's a goal. I don't know. Yeah, there is a save from the goalkeeper, but it went in. So the player who went on to follow the ball did not even interfere within the play.
It was already inside.
It was already inside. So it's a clean goal.
It's quite interesting for this to happen during a time where, we are speaking about VAR light coming into Eswatini in the next 2 years. And I think that's going to help a great deal dealing with such issues. But I'm seeing an opportunity here for
Look at Xavi is raising hand saying, why? Why are you denying this goal?
Yeah,
a couple of chances for Green Mamba. Look at Scar in Sinisa, that missed opportunity. And defended well, very, very well. But look at this moment. Sandile Masego gets a free kick, and quickly he hands it to Captain Blaba. And what a finish, because he's been talking about how he's been practicing this during the training. Oof.
Yeah.
That's a smashing goal.
Quite a beautiful goal.
And I think this is the second of the kind, because even last season, to avoid relegation, he scored almost a similar goal. Look at the supporters. They came in their numbers, and they knew that, giving their side
early contender for goal of the season?
You would say so. You look at the magnitude of the game. You look at the team they're playing against, because those are some things you consider when you're giving a goal, the goal of the year, or goal of the season, or goal of the week, or goal of the month. You look at the team they were playing against. You look at where the game it was. You look at the results of the game. I think it's good.
And the difficulty level of scoring such executing such a goal, what we just saw there on our screen. Fabrice, could we not provide VAR services just like we just did? Because you guys are always there filming anyway. And you have what is happening on the ground. The split second it scored, you already have the footage. Could you not maybe negotiate a deal then? We may not call it VAR, but I suppose it could help a great deal, because I'm speaking right now, the PLE has also announced that there might be a 3-month suspension for blundering referees, because there's been a lot of complaints about officiating. And maybe,
It was highlighted during the Premier League Endeavour this past weekend to say, what they normally do is that once an official or referee or a linesman, whoever that is in the field of play, is not doing their job correctly, what they normally do, they look at the report of the match commissioner. Then they start building up the case to say, you know what, based on the judgment you made, this is the second time that you're found in this situation. And mind you, the ref that was in the center, Mr. Sbanze, is the top ref in the country. When you talk about the top referees in the country, it's him, it's the likes of Letitia Vienna. So in that game, you will not have to blame the center official, the main referee. You have to blame the linesman in the far corner, because he's the one who declared that that was an offside. Then obviously the center referee had to blow his whistle. So it's a confusing situation. Let's wait for the 2 years, but I think something that needs to be done, because even Premier League, I don't think it's a secret, have actually started debating on how they can maybe support some of the decisions with their visuals to say, can we review the footage and see how the decision was made. But for me, such blunder, imagine if there was a final, a cup final, it means, remember, they have lost that trophy because just of a mistake that is controllable. So for me, coming to this game, let's just give all credits to Green Mamba, but for referees, there's so much work to be done. For denying a team that goal, who knows? The story could have changed had it been allowed.
Right. And I suppose I can only imagine what Green Mamba is going through, the frustration. Let's go to the Africa Cup of Nations. I like what it has done, also affecting to the English Premier League, how the results pan out in the English Premier League. But let's just quickly pay focus on the Africa Cup of Nations. Fabrice, really interesting results. Match day 2 of 3 of the group stages that we saw yesterday. Interesting results. Ivory Coast and Nigeria. Nigeria winning that game 1-0. Egypt and Ghana was another game that had a lot of views, according to the Africa Cup of Nations announcement there, in terms of, the views that they managed to stack. This is where it stands currently. Would you have predicted this? And we had a debate just a few days ago, sorry to catch you there, that Not as exciting as those days of what DJ Drogba, Samuel Eto'o, Samoa Gyan, but you know.
You know what I like about this AFCON? You
Yeah.
can still watch it and without those names you're highlighting, but because now we've got different names, I would love, these are some of the games I've played so far in different groups, C, D, we've got now Group B. This is I want us to focus, Group A, Group B.
Right.
Look at Group A. When you look at the teams in the Group A, you wouldn't think Equatorial Guinea will be sitting in the first position.
Right.
You know, we didn't have the likes of Aubameyang playing for Equatorial Guinea. But what they have done so far, yesterday they scored 3 goals against Guinea-Bissau. And look how they are set.
They actually scored 4.
Yeah, no. So I'm talking about one single player just scoring 3 goals. Yes.
Right.
So without their main striker like Aubameyang. So far we've got a total of 36 goals that have been scored since Saturday when the tournament started up to last night. 36 goals. Then look at Group B. What I want to highlight about Group B, you see Cape Verde.
Yeah.
Look at the teams that are within that group. There is Egypt, there is Ghana, and Mozambique can highlight it. Cape Verde, they are to play their game today. If they beat Mozambique, they have qualified for the last 16. Cape Verde, for them to qualify here, they were in the same qualifiers with Sihlangu. So if Sihlangu had qualified, this would be Eswatini on #1 position. But who knows, maybe the performance wouldn't be the same.
Would we have won our first game just like
that?
Yeah,
who knows? A different story, different, different performance. But I've been impressed with the likes of Mozambique, Namibia, South Africa. But look at Cape Verde. They beat Mozambique today. They're through to the last 16. Egypt and Ghana, they're actually very, 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 very worried about the next game, because what would happen between Mozambique and Ghana will also define if will Egypt proceed to the next round, because we saw what happened last night. Mohamed Salah getting an injury, putting a hamstring, and in the type of injury we saw, probably if nothing changes, it could keep him out for a couple of weeks, because I think if maybe they don't do their homework well, trying to make sure that he's well, he will miss the remaining games of the tournament. But you would have to go also to the likes of Mali. We know they have a player like Bissouma who plays for Tottenham Hotspur. Namibia, majority of their players play in South Africa at DStv Premiership. You've got the likes of Hoto, you've got Peter Shauli. Look at Namibia where they're standing. Tunisia, South Africa. So if Namibia...
South Africa
had a supporting performance against Mali in that first game.
Yeah, and Robert Marawa taking to his social media to say that maybe it is already time for us to consider looking for a new coach, and posting some photos of potential coaches that they may want to take in.
I disagree.
Getting a lot of criticism from South Africans saying that's too early, you are a problem in our football, you shouldn't be doing this. But South Africa is playing horribly, isn't that?
Let's say it's that performance, but Naskunu my ground in the Swiss Ipora, they are playing, but they are lacking some moments where they need to properly execute their finishing decisions. I'll tell you what, Umundu now would see he's not performing well. What are you basing it on? Because I'll give you an example. Hugo Broos coming to the competition, one would say, we arguably say, probably he was the best South African coach ever. Why? Why am I saying that? You look at the results. You give him the first competition as a coach. He qualifies for AFCON. Within 14 games played, he wins 9 games or 10 games. Then the coach is giving you what you want. So let's see what he's going to deliver in the game against Namibia. If he gets 3 points, and you have to wait their game against Tunisia, it will be too early because he made the team to qualify after so long. He made the team to where they are, and the players are gelling well.
South Africa is eliminated early. What does that mean?
Early, you can still give him a chance, because Lotamlets, what the changes, because there's the World Cup qualifiers now. This guy managed to qualify them for the AFCON. You can't then say just one game against Mali, Sarupumu, Saruham. It's early. It's debatable, but I think he deserves more time. I look at the style of football, because in that game, if Pesitao had scored the penalty, maybe results were not going to be the same. There. Yeah, there's a lot of ifs.
There's a lot of ifs.
It's you can't just judge them from the first game. I mean,
is that group really hard?
Not really. Because
so we can't judge him in a group that is not even hard.
Tunisia is not doing well. But the names are critical, because Mali is one of the big...
An early elimination, I think, for me, South Africa should really opt for another coach.
Yeah, but if you say, is this group really hard? You would say, let's look at the teams. But the fact that you've entered the competition, any team is hard. Because I'll give
Well,
you
we
an example.
expect if Mozambique
Let
and
me tell
Cape
you
Verde and if Sinhlangu had a great chance to enter this tournament,
Yeah.
South Africa
I'll
is
tell
a
you-
renowned team.
I'll give you all the reasons why this is maybe one of the biggest competition. Every team that is in this AFCON, 24 teams, they have always played that competition before. Good in you surprised. Would see they are qualified for the first time.
Yeah,
Everyone
but South
has
Africa
been-
has also played in the World Cup.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Every team that is in AFCON this year, they have always been there before. It's not their first. Only Gambia is qualifying
I
for
just
the
think you
second
like
time.
the coach.
Eh?
You're making a
No,
lot
I
of
don't like the
excuses for
coach. I mean, Sitam coach based on the fact that we want to
He's a
talk
loser.
right now. But right now, he loses one game, you want to go coach. Why?
Okay, that's fair. I think,
Yeah.
do you know what, Fabrice? I think South Africa is also suffering from, just remembering what the Springboks just did. And so they are projecting a lot of expectations based on what they saw from the Springboks onto Bafana Bafana.
And you know how South Africans, I like what they've done because the analysis even has gone to be like in England. They're looking at whenever, it's like, it's a coin. When this happens, normally we do well.
Right.
But the last time South Africa won the AFCON, the previous year, their rugby team had won the World Cup.
Yeah.
So in 1995, it's 95, yes. So then in 1996, they won the AFCON. Then you have to look at this year, they won the World Cup.
So
Is
you
this the
reckon
year?
next year South Africa might win the AFCON?
And that year, they lost their first game when they won the AFCON. So who knows? Let's see how the story unfolds. But look at Morocco after what they did in the World Cup. I'm quite impressed in that group because we've got two teams from the SADC region, Zambia and Tanzania, and DRC as well. Those are the teams from the region. So you have to expect Morocco to maybe win their next game. But look at the defending champions. I mean, I think this is one of the biggest groups. You look at Senegal, Cameroon. It's a huge, huge encounter.
yeah.
That's a huge encounter because you've got Guinea as well. You've got Gambia, who came into the situation with the story relating to flight scare of when they wanted to, fly to Ivory Coast. They had issues with the flight. So you have also to go down and look at Burkina Faso, Algeria, Angola, Mauritania, another Southern African team, Angola, from the SADC region. We saw how they played their first game. They could have won that first game against Algeria, but due to the circumstances that they were beyond their ability, that they were not able to get 3 points. But I would say credit to them. Getting a draw against Algeria was quite impressive. Their next game against Burkina Faso, they have to get 3 points. They have to ensure that they get 4 points out of 6. So far, I've been impressed with some of the teams within the region. They are doing what is expected of them. They are actually shocking the so-called the big guns. Most importantly, Mozambique and Namibia. I've been quite impressed.
Fabrice, Arsenal is playing Crystal Palace, the 14th seeded Crystal Palace against the 4th seeded Arsenal. Arsenal is given a 75% winning probability against this team, which they desperately need. They definitely need to win this game. Should they not win this game, for me, I'd say it's curtains for Arsenal. Yeah. They really need to win this game because also just looking at the current standings, what it's going to mean for them if they win this game is going to give them 43 points as well. And
but you have to look at the goal difference in the middle. City have 25 goals. Which means they have to score 8 goals for them to be number 2. But it's still early in the season, maybe to say will they finish number 4 or number 3.
Probably, number 3 is good enough.
But I think my expectation is starting to kick in. You look at number 1, number 2, and then you look what they have to offer. I know people will say now Liverpool doesn't have Salah, they don't have. I mean, let's see how they perform. They won their second round of the FA Cup. They qualified. So let's see how they perform. We've seen teams,
chances are they'll win against Bournemouth.
Yeah, we've seen teams losing some of their key players. I mean, Manchester City, look at where they are right now. And they've been playing with that Kevin De Bruyne, except the last game when he returned. So for Arsenal against Crystal Palace, it's a London derby. They're at home. They need to deliver. It doesn't make sense. We'll see, out of 60 chances they created in the last 3 games, 60 chances, they managed to score only 1 goal.
Yeah.
That's not really what they expected to be doing.
Won't you say that is bad luck, so to speak, because you can see that they are playing, but it's just it's not translating. The conversion ratio is very low. I think teams go through such phases where it's just there's a bad cloud.
But they go through such phases, but you have to also to look at that. There is a situation when now your opponents end up knowing your style of play.
Right.
But planning,
that's dangerous. So you need to maximize.
Once you've had Saka without just moving or Martinelli, then you've blocked the entire team. Then you have to wait for Odegaard to be the one delivering on his own. Stories about injured players coming shortly, soon than expected. We have to wait and see. But you look at other teams. Look at Spurs, number 5. You expect them also to return to winning ways. Look at also Brentford, Nottingham Forest. He's back training Ivan Toney, so I don't think he'll play this game, but probably on the bench because he's been training alone. Yeah. And on Sunday, you've got West Ham, Sheffield United, Liverpool. They want to extend their lead, and I don't think it will be a hard fixture for them.
They should win this one.
Yeah, they should. They are away to Bournemouth, but they should be able to get 3 points out of this one. If they want to keep the league open for them, they need to get 3 points in this game.
For Arsenal, I would say right now, this is one of their most important games of the season.
Yeah, it is. It is the most important game. But what I've realized is that now what counts is that let's look at your games. You don't have to look at how many games you've played compared to the other teams, because there's the pressure that comes with knowing that you've got game in hand. So for them, if they're to get 43 points, they have played 21 games. City have to play their 21st game. Liverpool have to play for their 21st game. Then you look at Spurs. Also, if Arsenal doesn't get 3 points, Spurs, they win in their next game. They're 43. So there's a lot of commotion. The West Ham, look where they are.
Yeah,
but I think I'm cutting the line up to number 5. Because those are the teams I'm thinking.
As you should, because also you want to appreciate that Manchester City's game, which is going to be, I think, only on Wednesday next week.
Yeah, next week.
They are playing against Burnley, and looking at how City are playing, it might just be also an easy game for them. So a very important win for Arsenal, for Manchester City, for Liverpool, for Aston Villa, the top 5 teams. They really want to win these games because they might not play against easier teams in the near future.
Yeah, the top 5 teams have really impressed. But just touching on Everton, they're number 17. Yeah. After that deduction of 10 points, there's a rumor that they might face another deduction, which now you ask yourself, where are they going to end up, because you deduct 10 points a month ago, 2 months ago. Now you want to deduct more points. It's really worrying for the Evertonians and those supporters and the entire world. But what a league we've been exposed to. Right. And football as a whole. Football can kill you, because there's a lot of talk about now Messi. How did Messi win the eighth FIFA Player of the Year? But you have to accept the results and the decisions of the game.
I would have loved for us to talk about how unfair it was to give Messi that award, but Inuyama Cup first. This weekend is a big weekend for the Inuyama Cup here. The last 16 draw here. Quite interesting. That I think, yet again, is it the biggest tournament? Would you say it's the biggest?
It is the biggest tournament because, like I highlighted, I was telling your co-host Lungelele on Friday last week that you just win 6 games and you're a millionaire. You just win 6 games and you're 1 million richer. Last 16, I think the biggest game of the weekend, I think that's the game on top. Wanderers coming into this game, there's a lot of talks about their performance. Can they shock Madlenya? We've seen how Madlenya are performing in the league. It's a trick. And from here, we're heading to the last 8. You win your game, you head into the last 8, you are 75,000 richer. So for me, like I was saying also to my colleague Linda last night, we need a big 3 out in this weekend.
Unfortunately, because we've run out of time. But Fabrice, if you speak about the magnitude of this tournament, what a tournament it is indeed. We're going to talk about it on Monday after all the games have been played this weekend. Thank you so much for staying with us on the program today. Thank you so much, Fabrice, for joining us yourself. Let's all have a great and responsible weekend. Nisale kahle.
Now, we're only 18 days into the new year, and tell you what, the sporting activities in the country are taking center stage left and right. Right now, it's your Thursday edition of Temidlalo, where we give full attention to other sporting codes by looking at what was taking place over the weekend and lining up what is to expect this coming weekend and the other upcoming weekends. Otherwise, hello and welcome for your host once again, Fabrice Msonera. A few instances where we'll touch on different sporting codes, including the Resolution Run 2024. We touch on this Resolution Run this year. What can we expect? What is some of the changes that both parties, being Big Game Parks and being also the Eswatini Athletic Association, they're trying to line up, ensuring that everyone who will be attending the Resolution Run is on point and is informed about what is taking place. Moving forward, we're talking about also the 2024 autism golf, special tournament or special days, because it's going to be 2 days from the 27th to the 28th this month. We talk about how now both parties, being the Professional Golfers Association in conjunction with the Autism Eswatini, how far have they worked in ensuring that this event comes to a success. So we'll have representative from both the Professional Golfers Association and herself in the studio, Magemvubu, the director of Autism Eswatini, just to give us the inner